couple of candidates that are interviewing for the second time now.
They have advanced to the second round.
They've advanced to the second round of interviews. These are going to be in person. So the Texans have graduated from the Zooms to the in-person interviews. We know that the first one's going to be Mike Kafka from the New York Giants. The offensive coordinator Kafka is going to interview with the Houston Texans.
I would hope he doesn't turn into be Kaka. I hope he's Kafka.
And then Ejiro Evero is going to interview in person as well for the Houston Texans. Quite honestly, Blankers,
did he not the first time?
What's that?
Evero did not. I thought didn't Evero fly? Oh,
that was Thomas Brown.
That was Thomas Brown. Okay.
That was the other one.
That's not.
That was, I'm just saying. Hey, you confused Evero and Brown.
No, I didn't, because they met with D'Amico too.
You did confuse Evero and Brown. You said that Evero was
those two. Yeah. But I'm just saying.
Thomas Brown.
But when you said that is the other one, no, because there's been several.
Anyways, Thomas Brown was the one that flew into Houston. Thomas Brown's also interviewing for offensive coordinator jobs, so it seems like the head coaching position for Thomas Brown is not going to happen. I'd be shocked if either one of these two guys are actually the head coach of the Texans as well, because I think that right now it's probably a two-horse race. D'Amico Ryans, Jonathan Gannon. You might be able to throw Shane Steichen into that conversation. You could probably throw Mike Kafka into that conversation. I'd be stunned if it's Ejiro Evero. But looking at the way that the Texans are handling this, I believe Kafka's on Wednesday and then Evero's on Thursday. I think that the Houston Texans here are just trying to be active what would normally be an idle week, because they can't interview D'Amico, Gannon, or Steichen until next Monday because they're still in the postseason. Right. NFL rules prohibit them from meeting them again until Monday, a week from yesterday. So since the Texans can't interview what I consider their top three targets, and I would say that there's top two, D'Amico, Gannon, maybe a drop-off Steichen, then Kafka, and then a huge drop-off, in my opinion, to Evero, who's going to come into Houston on Thursday. I believe that the Texans just don't want to waste a week. Like, okay, we can't interview our top three candidates until Monday. We don't want to sit here and, twiddle our thumbs all week. So why don't we bring in Kafka just in case? Do your due diligence. Bring in Evero just in case. Do your due diligence. And also, it kind of preps you for the big interviews that are going to come next week whenever you hopefully bring D'Amico into town. Maybe Gannon, maybe Steichen, bring them into town. It's good from a prep point of view. I think that the Texans aren't doing anything more here than their due diligence. They're kind of courting Kafka and Evero, but as back burners, as just the emergency in case one of your top targets does not take this job.
I also think, Jeremy, the same way that we say that a lot of these coaches, whether they know they're a leading candidate or not, they take these interviews. They want the reps. They want the experience. They want to go through the process so they become familiarized with the process. I think from a Texans perspective, there's nothing wrong with saying the same way that we were going to interview as many candidates, and I suggested they interview as many candidates, but they interviewed a very high number of candidates in this opening round. But before you get down to brass tacks with the guys that you truly want to zero in on, there's nothing wrong with, picking up an airline and a dinner tab and having a couple extra guys start the process off so that you kind of get the scrape the cobwebs off and you do some things, keep Cal out of the mix, keep them in high, from just let them say hi and bye and I got this when the check comes. But, work on the kind of things so that when you do want to dial down and impress the guys you truly are after, that you're ready for.
What do you think is the house? I do think that Kaka is a serious candidate for the Houston Texans. I really do. Kaka, because I speak Spanish and I know what Kaka means.
But there's an F in there.
In his name, yeah. But I'm calling him Kaka.
Okay.
Offensive coordinator for the New York Giants.
Not a compliment.
It's not. Okay. I wasn't suggesting that it was a compliment for Kaka, who had the 18th best offense in the NFL this year, and we're not even sure if he was the brains behind the offense.
I mean, that's the
genius there in New York.
It's like osmosis. Are you hoping that all these guys that really, didn't put up all those numbers, or just because they worked with the guy?
Yeah.
Are you hoping that they just absorb it all and it sinks in?
Yeah, maybe. Look, I think that Big C, I put it on Twitter, my take on this, that the Texans are trying to stay active, not be idle this week because they can't meet with their top candidates. And I do think Kafka's a serious candidate. And Big C came at me on Twitter. Well, he didn't come at me. We were just having a conversation. He's like, why would you hire the guy who doesn't even have an above average offense in the NFL? To Kafka's credit, and well, we don't know if he's the offensive mastermind. We know he was calling plays for the Giants, but they do have Brian Daboll as an offensive head coach. Nonetheless, the Giants went from the second to worst offense last year. Who was the worst? The Texans. The Giants went from the second to worst offense last year to the 18th offense this year. And they did it without really any huge additions. Now, Saquon Barkley was an addition because he was hurt in 21, wasn't hurt in 22. But I could make the case from a skill position player that Saquon Barkley's the only position player that they have, skill position player that they have, that is above average relative to the NFL. I think Daniel Jones is right on the cusp of top 16 quarterback. None of their receivers are in the top half of skill position players relative to the NFL. I think the Giants did a pretty good job with a lack of talent on the offensive side to have the 18th best offense in the NFL.
Well, look at the most expensive salary you have at the wide receiver position in Galladay was a guy that until the last 3 weeks of the regular season didn't see a football thrown his way, and they kind of worked him in a little bit, and basically he was an afterthought in the playoffs, and yet you still found a way to find guys to catch the football and do the things you needed to do. So, look, there's some positives there, and I really believe that if you're around Brian Daboll for any amount of time, you're going to be a better coach and because of it. The dude knows what he's doing, and whether you just say that you want to specify it to offense or just in a leadership role, the way he kind of got those guys to come together and stay loyal to him and the way he led them all season long, it was impressive.